Hello, hello everyone. How's everyone doing today? Welcome, welcome. I'm guessing we'll get some more people joining in later, but for now, it's good to see you all. So, we've got a slight change of plans today. Obviously, I'm starting up quite late. Hello, this dude. Hello, Lucia. Um, obviously, I'm starting up quite late. So it goes. But we are not going to be playing Great War Western Front today. I mean, I've heard loud and clear that y'all don't really care to see strategy games on this channel, which is fair. I'm neither good enough at them nor good enough at talking about other stuff while playing them to necessarily make that the best content, but also, right? It seems like that's just not something people are interested in. So we're gonna start off by having some closing thoughts on it, on that game, how it portrays World War One, and then we're gonna be turning back to Hollow Knight with the goal of beating the game. Beating the Radiant sounds fun and noble and definitely worthwhile. All right, enjoy the lurking, and hopefully we'll have more folks dropping in soon. Hello, Ozymandias. Good to see you. So, I think we should probably just, get right on with it. With, everyone's favorite bit of content. Little Ginger Birdie, hello. Everyone's favorite bit of content, the Google Doc, to finish up our thoughts on Grey War Western Front. I've obviously not written anything in here right now, but, let's change that. Let's fix that. There we go. So, genre, strategy. Turn-based plus RTS, because it was both. Let's see. Setting, Western Front, entire. What was its main goals, right? Or what did we like about it? I think the big thing, right, the mechanics do a really good job of showing why the front didn't move. Because it's just unbelievably difficult to actually attack a place and have success and maintain an attack for long enough to puncture the front. Like, that really is almost impossible from the little bit we played. So, even victories don't really do anything. What we like, we... Right? The fact that defenses will persist battle to battle. If you fight in the same spot, the enemy is just going to dig in farther and farther and farther. And that's good. What else do we like? We like, well, there was a thought. Oh yeah, we like how easy it is to move. Right? You can move anyone to anywhere on the front at any time once per month. Because you just get on a train and then you're at the right spot. And that's good. So those are the things that I think it does really, really well. Oh yeah, and Right? It communicates the feel of how many lives can be lost in an attack. And yet, also why command might keep committing resources despite that loss of life. Hello, KJ. We are just finishing up our thoughts on Great War Western Front. Those I think the thing is it does really well, right? It's really quite good at showing, you know, why the front doesn't move, which is ambitious for a strategy game. Let's be clear. Strategy games, typically don't like the idea of the map not changing. And so, like, this is ambitious and a bit weird, and I admire the effort. Oh yeah, and as far as the historical portrayal things, another thing that's really good, like really good, is clearly there's a lot of research that's being done. Right? There is a lot of archival material in that thing. Right? That game has a lot of archival material, and we love that. They have a very clear awareness of what the timeline of the war is, when do certain events happen, what sorts of random events might be happening. Right? Weapons markets, pacifist protests, feminist protests, all these things, right, that we saw in our short time with the game, I think really showcase that fairly well. That being said, right, what don't we like? The major discourse seems very out of date. Maybe bad. Technological war. Harbinger of New World. Right? All of these things are things that, you know, are to some extent true, but are very dominant in like the 50th anniversary of World War I discourse, and much less important in the 100th anniversary, or now the 110th anniversary. Almost 120th. No. I can brain. 110th. So, that's kind of an issue, but ultimately my complaints with the game come down to two things, right? Thing one. AI is real bad. This is funny because this is actually a thing we see in World War I media all the time. Insider just recently, conveniently, did 2 episodes with Alexander Watson, rating historical or battle scenes in World War I. And the thing that he kept saying over and over and over again that I think is very pertinent to this game is, where are your officers? Right, the only officer in any of these field battles is me. Is the player. So the player is simultaneously having to fill the role of things that a lot of people did, right, ranging from NCOs all the way up to Central Command and either field marshals or like major generals who are actually running it. So, right, everyone just kind of ends up running headlong, and the individual companies get no oomph to them, right? There's no individual direction, even rudimentary, to say, don't walk into the shells. Don't walk into the shells. And so it ends up being like a very unrealistic way of behavior. And that's kind of a big deal, right? It's kind of a big deal in two different ways. The first way is that, this is a RTS game that's designed to be very chaotic in the moment-to-moment gameplay. And so if you're not being incredibly precise with how you're navigating things, your people are just gonna stand there and get mowed down by machine gun fire because they don't have enough brain to take a circular route. This ties into a whole bunch of other stuff with how, like, sluggish the... If you want to try and micromanage them on weird missions, you gotta deal with the fact that the movement is incredibly sluggish, and frequently it's impossible to make the coordinated combined arms assaults that you need, because they will simply run around in circles while your artillery are doing their thing, and your field guns will have stopped firing by the time it matters. Right, by the time they figured out what the hell they're doing, and figured out what direction they're supposed to run headlong into, your field guns have already finished their bombardment, and so now you're getting shot at again. Hello, Persian. Is there any sort of default direction you can dictate in the game? No. You can tell them you go to this point, and if they are in a trench, they are going to have a very hard time getting out of the trench, and then they're going to have a harder time getting into the enemy trench. And so they'll just kind of, right, you can say, just make your own way to the other side of the map, that's fine. And they will run in a straight line. You can't say, make a curve. You can't say, avoid, if a shell artillery bombardment starts directly in front of you, don't run into it. And you can't say, hey, don't, if a machine gun starts shooting at you, spread out. Back off. Make it harder for them to hit. They will just stand there. They will just run right through it while the machine gun goes brr, 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 and auto-aims. The machine gun just auto-aims at them. It's rough. But what strikes me about that is so much World War I media has found success in focusing on the initiative and roles, right? The question of agency for individual soldiers and low-ranking officers, right? Like, so much has been written and explored in media on that topic, thinking about, yeah, what, how does individual decision-making play a role in the broad scope of this war that is, in many ways, completely impersonal because artillery bombardments. Like, really zooming in, as early as the 1920s, right, people were finding success on really zooming into that question and really thinking about how the game works from there. Or thinking about how the war works from there. From a scholarly perspective, right, The Miracle at the Marne thinks an awful lot about how, right, the disconnect between von Moltke the Younger's Central Command in Luxembourg and the two German armies that were approaching Paris, right, how the communication disconnect led by the strong wills of both of the generals of those two armies spread out. I'm doing okay, Camden. Got a bit of a sinus cold, but otherwise, doing good. Right, so, think about that, and the ways in which couriers had to take charge, right, had to stand as a surrogate commander to force decisions, right, a lot's been written on that. And so, a lot hinges on this very individuated agency. And that's completely... The AI is so bad that there is no sense of that agency in this game. And that's really weird. And by the way, if people disagree with me on any of this, that's totally fine. Please do say something so we can actually, talk about it. But I think that's where my feelings are at right now on that. But again, the AI is real bad. I also dislike the Homefront. Like, they boil everything down to 3 resource pools, right? National Will, Gold, Supply. The Homefront is a mix of gold and National Will. And everything you do focuses on either affects National Will or affects your gold supply. That's weird. Right? There's so much more to be said about the interplays of culture, technology, trying to maintain civilian well-being, and the war effort. And it's this hugely complex thing. And yet, we don't really get to see that. One place this stands out really clearly to me, right, I'll just use one example here, is does seem that media rarely focuses on higher level logistics of the war and focuses more on the individual. Yeah, they definitely do. Because it's just so hard to wrap your head around the high level logistics of the war outside of things, I don't know, like a board game like Diplomacy, where the entire point is that everyone sucks and is gonna backstab each other over the next 52 hours of game time. Right, there's not a lot of... The extent of the narrative you kind of see is the Blackadder-esque making fun of High Command, right? Phil Marshall Haig is not well liked in British collective memory, and gets ruthlessly made fun of in Blackadder and in much earlier media for the operational misplays that lead to the Somme. So, that's kind of the one place where upper level command and high level logistics comes in, and it's almost exclusively, in my experience, negative. And that's weird. So, this is the case study I'm going to use. So I was like, why can't I recruit more infantry? I just want more people on the front. And it turns out you just can't do that. It's not really in your control. You sometimes get extra companies of infantry for achieving other objectives. But for the most part, the companies you have are the companies you have. And they just refill. They just use gold and they refill. And it's like, wow, whoa. And then they'll just sit on the front for an extremely long time as reserves. It's like, are we sure about that? Are we really sure about that? Because basically this forecloses any interesting questions or gameplay mechanics around over-recruitment, around struggles to find willing volunteers, around literal manpower shortages in the home front and in the war front. It completely forecloses events like, hey, desertion. Right, I'm sure there's some random events that will simply remove companies and call that desertion, but it's like, again, there's no individual agency in this, and it's strange. And it restricts the number of ways you can actually think about the war front to assume everything either builds up national will or lowers it. Or costs you gold or gives you more gold. Like, there's no... It's such a simplistic way of viewing it that it kind of feels... It feels to me weird. And it feels to me like a really missed opportunity to, I guess, make the game less gamey, right? It's a little bit too wargamey for my taste. And that's like a completely valid design decision, but this isn't a historical period that lends itself very well to traditional war games. And so, right, the sort of instantaneous communication, instantaneous control, repositioning, really, and a very abstracted home front really simplifies the picture of what is the mess of things that military leaders and politicians and diplomats in the countries at war actually were doing to try and negotiate with each other. So, and to, you know, keep their companies functioning, keep their countries functioning throughout the war, keep morale up for soldiers, and keep, you know, other things happening, because it's not like World War I was the only thing happening in the world. It was a big deal, but it wasn't the only thing. And while they reference other things in the little splashes, there's more complex things than either plus national will plus gold or not that. Right, in the in the actual on the ground to ground thing, you aren't deploying your entire force at once. Like, you have reinforcements, you're going to be reinforcing from your reserve companies already deployed in that area. It's just on the ground level, you can build more hardware, you can build tanks, you can build aircraft, you can build artillery. You just can't build more infantry. So, I mean, I'm glad that they're saying factories are not able to churn out human beings and just flood the front with that. Because that would be frightening. That would be a frightening proposal. But at the same time, it's just a weird compromise. Also, did we mention that the AI cheats like hell? The AI has way more supply than it should possibly have. So, it's just known that the AI is cheating like hell, to create a sense of challenge and difficulty, which I suspect leads to an interesting thing, right? I suspect that there's something interesting in there where the devs felt like they had to just make the AI cheat in order to create an appropriate feeling sense of hopelessness and waste over these fights. Because I'm guessing if the AI did not cheat, it would be extremely easy to just bust through an area pretty quickly, and just kind of wrap up, break through the front in one place a little bit too easily, and then just push. So, I'm guessing that's kind of what the logic was, but yeah, it's definitely weird. Right, you need the war to be stagnant, because that is what World War I is. The war is mobile in 1914, and the war is mobile in 1918 on the Western Front, and in between that the war is very static. And the game devs seem to have felt like they really need to create situations that'll force the front to be static, and players, if the AI was not cheating, simply are too good at video games. And would prevent the war from being static, and so they kind of have to brute force it. The star system isn't enough. The need to make great victories as the only thing that hurts star ratings isn't enough. The AI just needs to cheat. So, to wrap it up, do I think this game is a good portrayal of World War I? Sort of. I think what it does in showcasing the ways in which, right, the reasons why someone might continue investing resources into a lost or into a stalemate battle like, I don't know, Verdun, which lasted 10 months, and it cost 500,000 casualties. You know, something like that. Definitely, right, it's very good at communicating that. It's very good at showcasing a lot of archival materials. It's, I'd say, not very good at, like, it kind of brute forces the gameplay situation that it wants, and it ends up being not super compelling as a strategy game. I think that's the difficulty of World War I strategy games, right? The strategy game side of it, you know, the push up, take control points, overwhelm trenches, feel like you're making progress. And the World War I side of it, where that progress needs to be measured so microscopically that you aren't actually moving the front, are in fundamental tension. Right? The very static war and the strategy RTS want to overwhelm the map are just in tension. And the fact that they're in tension means that the game feels at odds with itself in its core design, and then that gets exacerbated by a bunch of technical issues. Especially, you know, let's have bright flashy lights, and so that anyone who has vague epilepsy or other photosensitivities cannot play this game because the loading screens will kill them. And the RAI is boneheaded and will simply mill around in the middle of no man's land because they cannot take initiative on their own because we are using AI no more sophisticated than what Age of Empires 2 did in the year 2000. Like, that feels bad. And ultimately, I'm like, this is a worthy experiment, but I feel like it just feels bad. So that does it for, you know, week 2 of Ludo History playing World War I games. Right? That's it for that. We'll be back. It's on the schedule page, but next week we'll be moving into first-person shooters with the Black Hill Games trilogy, so Verdun, Tannenberg, and Isonzo, to explore squad-based, multiplayer, World War I FPS games. Now, I'm not good at FPS games, I'll give you that warning, but this does promise to be quite a lot of fun, so I hope you'll join us for more World War I stuff then. For today,